No disclosures? Okay, and there confirmation of the minutes of the previous hearing of submissions committee meeting, which was held on the 31st of May 2018. So that's moved by Councillor Rennie and seconded by Councillor Messina. All those in favour? Motion is carried. So thank you all for being here this evening. The purpose of the hearing of submissions is for the committee, which comprises of all councillors, to hear from submitters regarding the potential lease of council land at 52 to 60 Town Hall Avenue, Preston, for the purpose of affordable housing. And I want to clarify that this engagement process was primarily about whether council should lease the land, but acknowledge that many other issues have been raised through this process, and I want to provide an opportunity to hear these as well, even though they're technically out of scope and can't be considered in the decision-making at this point. Council upholds and protects the right to a fair hearing and freedom of expression, and tonight is an opportunity for everyone here to exercise that right. As in all council and committee meetings, any defamatory or vilifying language or behaviour will not be tolerated. There are people here tonight who span the entire spectrum of opinion on this topic, and everyone has the right to be heard. We also the right to protection with inhumane and degrading treatment. So I want to note that some of the language used in the written submissions is not meeting this test. Calling someone undesirable is degrading and not respecting people's dignity. So I'm asking everyone here tonight to be considerate in the language that you will use. I'll also invite you to carefully and respectfully listen to one another so we can all hear different perspectives, have our own challenged and learn from this process. In terms of what the procedure is tonight and where to from here, we will not be making any decision on this matter this evening. The community views will inform how council moves forward with the project, considering all of the different issues raised through this submissions process. Council must consider the issues that are raised in the submissions in making its decision. This is a requirement of the legislation. And so we are expected to consider this matter later in the year, around November. We will be writing to all those who made a submission to advise them of the proposed council meeting date where the matter will be considered, and again, once council has made a decision. And the reasons for council's decision at the time will be also explained. Tonight, people will be called to speak in the order that their submission was received. Each speaker has 2 minutes to speak and should only speak to the points that you have raised in your submission. I will call out your name in order, invite you to speak, and you are welcome to come and stand at the lectern. Many people have sought to be heard on this issue, so it's really important that we stick to time. We've got quite a number of people to get through this evening, and we want to make sure that everyone has an equal and fair chance to have their say. So we're expecting to hear from 43 people tonight. You're welcome to stay to the end of the meeting to hear all of the submissions, or you can leave once you've made your submission. Councillors are unable to respond to any of the issues that you raise, but we may ask clarifying questions. We may also seek to correct any statements that are not factually correct. And a reminder that vilifying language will not be tolerated in this process. And one final point before we begin that I'd like to make is that some of you will have seen a tweet made from the council Twitter account in late July. This tweet made a number of incorrect statements about this process, and we apologise for the confusion and concern it caused. I think we contacted some of the people who are participating in this process directly to explain what had happened in that case. But I wanted to assure you that council has not made a decision about whether the land will be leased, and we are all committed to a genuine and transparent engagement process. So we'll now move into hearing from people who have made submissions. Our first speaker is Karen Bailey. So I'll invite Karen down to the lectern, if she is here. Okay. We'll move now to Anne Laver from the Darebin Ratepayers Association.
Good evening, it's Anne Laver from the Darebin Ratepayers Association. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. I'd like to make my submission on this and say I support this. I know that a lot of people in the community don't, and but I do have a couple of concerns. But I believe we should provide housing for those in need. But I have a bit of a concern about whether it's public housing, social housing, affordable housing. So I actually made the request for public housing, and I received an email saying that public housing is provided by the state government. But I just wish that it could be provided to people like the homeless and refugees and domestic people from domestic violence, not just people students and low-income people, because I think there's people more in need. tell you the truth. That's my opinion, my personal opinion. And in addition, I've asked for parking to be provided for both the residents and a separate car park for a separate public car park, because it's very congested around the area, and I think a lot of people are concerned about the congestion. And I know that Councillor Messina is making a proposal for the precinct plan, and so I think that's part of the issue, is the congestion. So that's why we request both a car park for the residents and the car park. So two car parks, not just to change the whole car park, just for the residents, you know. And I also would like to know if there's if they can have strong KPIs, for example, ensuring that the maintenance of the site is upheld, and that there's a contact number made public for all people to contact for complaints and also for help for the residents. Thank you very much. That's my submission.
Thank you very much. We'll ask you to return to your seat. I'll now call on Vicky Skoulas. No? Okay, I'll move on to Serena Ive. No? Pina Ensabella, speaking on behalf of herself and Tony Ensabella. No? Okay. We'll get through these more quickly than we thought. Okay, the next speaker is Dusamka Amam. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. No? The next person is Tula Sipiris on behalf of Arthur Sipiris. Okay. Yingji Wang. Okay. Vince Cooney. Yes, okay, winner. Thank you. Councillor Greco?
What number of the...
So this is 102, submission 102.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vince Cooney, Madam Mayor and councillors. Firstly, I'd like to say, with regards to state housing, public housing, community housing, whatever you want to call it, definitely not adverse to it. But having been lived in this area for some 40-odd years now, one thing I'd like to see is some vision for the actual area that we've got. As you know, there's an old police station there that's been abandoned for quite some time, and we've got a courthouse that is an old building that is looking a little bit out of step right now, and we've got a very beautiful precinct that could be developed in the whole area, and you know, and that could incorporate a number of things. And one of the things I sort of would have liked to see is a structure plan around that whole area, incorporating a number of things, and affordable housing included in that, to be part of the whole community aspect, and really delivering on the entire community. I think that would be something really beautiful, especially being right in the centre of Preston and right in the activity area. And it can basically incorporate a number of facets, which would be, you know, commercial, private housing, affordable social housing, as well as, you know, community services and the like, and, you know, anything that would seem fit. But I think a nice vision for the entire area, incorporating the idea that we have here, but a number of other things, and making it, you know, make it part of the community, rather than, the way I sort of see it now is it's sort of isolating it out to the corner, when it could be part of something a lot more grander and a lot more beautiful that everyone would, I think, would appreciate in the area. I also made the point around the responsibility of state governments to deliver on social housing and public housing. And I think with the right development, to engage them and get their expertise involved into the process would be instrumental, as they, you know, they do this every day of the week. They've got a department engaged in it, and are delivering on it. And I think that would be, you know, important. It would be good for us as well.
Thank you. You're just over time now, so I'll thank you for your submission and you can return to your seat. I'll now call on Victoria McMorrin. No? Adam Brennan. Ingrid Brooker. Nicholas Terrace. Poonam Kurumbalis. Mark Tallis. Peter Speranza. Peter Speranza. Hang on, you're two down the list, but okay. Is Pete? We'll take you. Okay, so Tony Speranza is submission 175, councillors. So we have all of the submissions here. So I've got a Peter Speranza and a Tony Speranza. I've got two.
No, Peter will be here.
Okay, it was just you.
Thank you.
Tony's submission is number 125. So just so that we can refer to your submission while you're speaking, we all have a copy of it here.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Tony Speranza. I live in the area for the last 25 years. And I don't know the idea, where this idea come from, with a very tiny piece land to develop, to make such a development for affordable house. My concern is that we already facing a problem in Preston area, in front Woolworths, High Street. People are asking for donation, and that's a disgrace to me. I am against it definitely to have those type community to this heart of Preston, especially just behind the town hall. What we need here, your people, you are the experts, you better come up with a better idea, such helping elderly people, provide a car park for the area, give a facility to the people that they serve. The people, they've been here for a long time, and they don't need any congestion of traffic more than what we have. My concern is also the car park. Car park is a problem to the area. So I'll leave it to you. You are the expert, and I hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission. I'll now call on Jennifer Tran on behalf of Lam Chi Tran. That is submission 184. Thank you.
Hello. Mum and Dad lives at Town Hall Avenue, and us siblings all live at, all have homes in Preston. We've always lived in northern suburbs and have a rich history with Preston. We are also recipients of affordable housing, and we used to live in the housing blocks that are on St George's Road, which are now redeveloped. So we do strongly believe that affordable housing is a very important issue in our society, but we believe that the problem needs to be addressed through housing, social care and political will. By providing affordable housing, we do not believe this is going to tackle the problem. There has been numerous public and community housing projects in the state and within the Darebin Council, and from what we believe is that projects that have the transparency and the genuine community consultations has resulted in the project succeeding or the community backlash. Therefore, I thank the Darebin Council for holding this public submission. My concern is if the council goes ahead with this proposal, they should restrict the building height to a maximum of 2-storey and a setback of 4 metres along the southern boundary. This is to ensure there's minimal shadows over the Preston Library and the residents, i.e. 50 Town Hall Avenue, and the houses affected. And this is also to ensure that the standard residential streetscape of Town Hall Avenue is maintained. Parking on Town Hall Avenue is already an issue, let alone a 5-level building, the traffic and the density that this will bring. There's also been talk that this building would be leased to public car parking and therefore it would replace the existing car park. But our concern then is where the residents, visitors of these tower going to park. So we should ensure that the parking standards, i.e. if you're creating a 1-bedroom apartment, you have one car park, the same parking standards need to be adhered to.
And we're just at time now.
Okay. Okay.
Is there one last thought you'd like to leave us with?
Last thing I want to address is that the culture on Town Hall Avenue, there's a real community feel and community mix. By putting in this tower, the question then be, how is council going to address the social mix and ensuring that there's no stigma between us versus them? Generally, affordable housing and not public housing is generally for short-term residents, and if that is the case, they're not there for a very long time, and hence creating another stigma and not being able to blend in within the street. That's it then.
Thank you for your submission. Just to clarify, and I think that this FAQ, you can take your seat in the gallery, we are not intending to remove the public car parking. If the site is developed, council would require the public car parking to continue to be provided at this site. The issue of car parking within a development would need to happen at a planning permit stage. Just to clarify those facts. I'll now call on Peter Chuang. That's submission 163.
Hello, I'm Peter Chung. Good evening. I'm a resident here for about 6 years now. Oh, sorry, 10. And when I first moved to the area, I really liked it. It had a really nice feel and a community feel. And over the years, there's been a lot of development going on, and it seems to be more and more populated and more denser now, which is understandable. But building a 5-storey building on such a small land on a street such as Rosemary and Town Hall, which is so congested already, and then on top of that you're going on to High Street and Plenty Road, which is also congested. So you try driving out of V Street on like a Saturday, you're stuck in a traffic jam. So with a further 5-storey building going in there, that's going to cause issues even further. And then on top of that, even with the car park that will be sort of available from the development, there's still going to be issues. Have a look at some of the developments that have been done already. So like on the corner of Plenty Road and Swift Street, there's a set of apartments there. There is also parking built for that apartment as well. But all the people are actually parking on the roadsides, taking up all the space on the roads. People visiting are jamming the roads as well. So it's very congested, even if you do have parking available. And then on top of that, you get a lot of people congregating around the building, and they generate a lot of mess as well. You can walk across Swift Street now, and you can see the amount of litter that's been there now since the development of that building. And then on top of that, you get people double park in front of residents' driveway. So, and this is 24/7. So there's numerous times where I had to ring up to get people to tow trucks or just leave notes on there. And it's the same thing that's going to happen here as well. So
okay, we're at time now.
That's my main concern.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your submission. The next person, the submitter's name is Eleni Georgiou, and was going to be represented by Chris. I don't have your last name though, I'm afraid. It's 196 is the submission number.
Yeah, I'm Chris Columbus anyway. I represent my mother that lives in Preston, so...
Thank you.
Councillors and Madam Mayor. And my mother is an aged care person with limited vision, right? And she needs a lot of care. So without sort of going on too much, the parking is one of the main issues of the street, and I think that's, that's pretty well brought up and forward. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that knowing the street and living there for a long time, right, a 5-storey building, right, 5-storey, it's not the facade of the street, what the street requires, right? My mother is not against affordable housing. She's just against a building that's 5 stories high, right, which you probably have about 50 residents, which would double the street residents. The whole street only has 50 homes, or thereabouts. So you see, one building of 5 stories, right, it would double the amount of people that would be travelling up and down the street. Now, my mother at the time, for the time being, she requires a lot of assistance. There's many times that we can't even get a parking, or the carers can get a parking to put it into the vehicle to go to have medical appointments. So that is one of the main issues. And the other one is, I think, a 5-storey building will not sort of be for the facade of the street. Now, on the other thing is, if a 5-storey building goes there on the corner, can any resident of the street request the same for the block that they live in? So you see, can the council, allow anybody to put a 5-storey building in the street? If that's the case, what does the future become? A street full of slums, right? So basically, all my mother wants is, yes, put in affordable housing but not so much, not so many, enough to sort of cater and enough to, and a building that sort of suits the street facade. That's basically all she's sort of complaining about.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks very much for speaking on behalf of your mother. Just to clarify though, thank you. Just to clarify, the design options of this aren't being considered at the moment. So the current planning controls that were set in 2010 allow for a building of up to 5 stories to be constructed on this site. So that's the current planning controls as they stand. There's no design options being put forward of what this building, if we were to make the decision to lease, will look like. So I just wanted to clarify that the decision isn't being made on the design of this building at the moment. Now we'll call on the next submitter is Demi Tsipras.
Good evening. I'm Demi, and we unfortunately are 36 years living in 50 Town Hall Avenue, so we're the property right next door to the proposed site. I've got a list of things that I wanted to talk about tonight, basically around amenity, around privacy, around especially mum's privacy, loss of sunlight. But I'm not just going to read out of this paper because there's so many things that I've heard tonight, and I support everything that everybody else has spoken about. I'm going to talk to you personally about our experience living there currently at the moment. This parking issue is a major issue. We also have, my mum is on disability. She needs care. I can tell you there is not one day where we freely have been able to drive out of the driveway. And every time, without fail, 100% of the time, it's Russian roulette. Because we can't see. We can't see. The cars are so close, we can't see whether other cars are coming. So initially one of our biggest issues was parking. We would think that the council would consider additional parking to what is there currently. So when we got this proposal in the mail, we were just shocked. And initially my response was, oh my God, there's you're going to take the parking, you've provided utilities, we've got the police station, the council, the library, the childcare centre. All these people park around in our street and Rosebery Avenue. And so suddenly somebody has thought that it may be a good idea to put this development in the corner of this street. I think it's council's responsibility to provide public parking. You've put the utilities there and you've made it an activity centre, but you need to provide parking. Residents, everybody will say the same thing. Residents are finding it really hard to park in their street. And for us that care for the elderly, it's impossible. We constantly have delivery trucks driving in our driveway. It only takes 2 seconds and then we have to wait in the middle of the street because they've got nowhere else. You're not approving any more driveways. I'm struggling to get a carpool. And you're now proposing, I know it's only a proposal and it may be up to 5 stories, but you're proposing something that's going to create so much more traffic in the area and make it so much harder for the residents. 36 years there, we never considered leaving. This is a sad time because most of the residents, all of the residents are unhappy in our street and we know that for a fact. Am I time? Because I've got so much more to say. I don't know where to start or end.
I'd like to thank you for your submission. We are over time.
Thank you.
Yeah, so at this point, I just want to reassure people that we all have your submissions and we've all read your submissions, so it's good to put a face to the name to the submissions that we've been reading. And again, thank you for coming along this evening. I'm sorry that it's a very short amount of time to try and get your message across. I'll now call on Bilal Chamad. No? Robin Coates. It's submission 220.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I couldn't remember what I'd written in my submission, but I knew I'd written about parking. In 1987, I actually wrote to the council about the development plan that the council had for this particular area. And in the letter that I received back for the town planning people at that time, I was assured that there were no plans to alter car parking restrictions as a result of the district centre proposals, and that increased car parking was intended to be elsewhere within central Preston. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And having been a resident of either Rosebery Avenue or Town Hall Avenue since 1962, I have been concerned about the overdevelopment of this area and the problems regarding residential parking that this development has caused. In that time, I've seen the development of the library. This building once was the old library. Many of you may not remember that, but I remember that well, coming here as a child to borrow books. The courthouse, which is now VCAT, and the development of the police station, plus many, many apartments and townhouses that have now been built on what was once one house site. And these have caused problems to once a very quiet residential area. Our home, like many in these 2 streets, doesn't have a driveway and has a rear access right of way to a single garage, of which I know my husband's going to speak. Since 1987, I've been in communication with the Council Planning Department and the Traffic Management Department. And visitors to our home are now limited in the hours that they can visit due to lack of parking. Our family members with young children often are unable to get a car park, and when they do, they're limited to 2 hours. Most days, the car parks in Town Hall Avenue and the southern side of Town Hall Avenue are filled by 8:30 in the morning, and by 10 o'clock on the northern side, if you're lucky, you might get a park at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a boxing gym that operates 6 days a week from 5 o'clock in the morning until 7:30 at night, and with all the visitors to the library, the police station, VCAT, etc., plus all the people who work in High Street, parking is just very limited. And whilst I'm not against affordable housing, I just think this site is only going to exacerbate the problems that we have. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. The next person is Tanya Borg is a submitter, and she's being represented by John Athanasopoulos. Number 226.
Madam Mayor and councillors,
Look, I pretty much agree with what everyone else has said, so I'm just going to put that out there from the start. I've lived in the street for about 20 years, but have actually been playing in the street, because I'm still currently playing in the street, for about 40 years. Our issue is not the proposal by council to look at affordable housing. We support that. We just don't think that this is the right place, and I think you've heard from everybody and we all agree. The thing that struck me, and I've got a whole thing here that I was going to read, but I'm actually going to abandon that because I think you've actually answered your own question. I sat back and listened to the submission on Simpson Street and the other thing in Reservoir. You've knocked back something that is inadequate for an area because of schooling, because of community, because of streetscape, because of well, sort of. And then you're proposing to build something in a residential area that is, for the people that live there, already out of control with respect to congestion, with respect to cars speeding up and down, with respect to amenities. I know that I can get booked by putting my rubbish on the street. I dare you to book me, because I'm sick and tired of ringing up every Tuesday or Wednesday to get my bin picked up, because I can't put it anywhere else. I won't let my girlfriend's child play on the street, but we'll take him to the country and let him disappear for 2 days, because we're safer there. We agree with looking at the problem. We don't agree that the location is appropriate. I'm simply going to leave it at that. There's a whole proposal in here on your planning scheme, and there's probably 15 points that need to be addressed by any proposed site. If you can show me how this proposal, well, if the building does get approved and meets all of those conditions, I will happily support it, but I severely doubt that it will even meet half of them. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. I'll now call on Ray Morrow. It says may be represented by someone else, not confirmed. Is anyone here on behalf of Ray Morrow? No? Alex, sorry if I pronounced your last name incorrectly. Gavaldiz? No? Ken Rogers? Murray Venville? Johnson Zia? Samuthu Bamuna Rachichi? Blake Hogan from Haven Home Safe?
What number up to? Did you miss Johnson?
I've done that one.
Oh, sorry,
Yep.
Okay.
Paul McMorrin? Yes. And so I've got you listed also speaking on behalf of Julian.
Yes, I can do it both times.
Yep, go for it.
Madam Mayor, councillors, thank you for hearing my submission. Much appreciated. I agree that there is a need to address the lack of housing, affordable housing in the area. I agree that we all can play a role in this, whether it's individuals, communities, councils, state and federal governments. We all have a role here to play. I'm also open to the idea that the concept and the development has a role in the local area too, whether it is in Town Hall Avenue or a close area. But what I do have an issue with is the size of the proposed development. Whether this is a affordable housing development or a residential development, the actual size is inappropriate for the area. I think a lot of people covered a lot of areas which we've discussed already, such as the impact on congestion, the impact on parking, the impact on infrastructure and services, the impact on the access to right of the way between Town Hall and Rosebery Avenue, and the impact on the streetscape and the character of the area. One of the areas that I'm really passionate about, and I think hasn't been covered, is the impact on green space. And I know right now it is a car park and not all great to the green space, but I think the long-term impact on the green space needs to be considered. Such a development needs to consider green space as a whole. And I think as a 5-storey large development, green space is going to be quickly, I guess, sold off for other uses. There's been so much data out there covering the need for green space, whether it is the impact through the World Health Organization. I've mentioned a number of topics here. I'm trying to rush through, I know. So I think that's a real issue that we need to consider, is how we are going to manage the green space in that area how are we going to allow the residents to use the green space? How is it going to be impacted on by the local community in that space there too at the same time? It's a big factor. The other area I wanted to cover was, sort of break into Julian's here, is that the process so far to us has felt a bit rushed and it's been a bit ad hoc. There's been, as you mentioned, tweets go out which say it's been done by DHS. There's been information coming from council saying its preferred option is 5 stories. So for us it's feeling a lot like it hasn't engaged the local community and hasn't really created the ownership which I think it needs to do as a successful development. Unless it is embraced by the community, I don't think it's going to be successful. And we want to have people in this area use the space and feel ownership at the same time. So it's something we should need to consider.
Thanks very much for your submission. Now call on Bin Tran, number 285.
Thank you. Dear Madam Mayor and Councillors, thank you for allowing us to have this session to be able to voice our opinion regarding the proposed site. I've always lived in the northern suburb and I've also attended the Old Preston Girls Secondary College. Certainly when it was time for myself to settle down and start my own family, Preston was the place for us to call home. My parents live at Town Hall Avenue and I also have a home in Town Hall Avenue as well. I don't believe that anyone would disagree that affordable housing isn't an issue in today's societies. However, I do object to the council's proposal to build the tower on Town Hall Avenue. I understand, as the council has had mentioned, that the proposed 5-level towers on Town Hall has not been confirmed. However, something for the council to be reminded is to ensure that if the development does go ahead, that it would be restricted to at least a 2-storey building to be in line with the characteristics within the street. And that should certainly, overcome the overshadowing as well as intruding on privacies within the existing homes. We certainly know this. We also have a current home on Swift Street that overlooks that we have an issue with at the moment, and that is only a 4-level apartment. Town Hall Avenue already has parking issues, which a lot of the residents have already mentioned, with the majority of the households do not have driveways and certainly do rely on off-street parking. Again, with the proposed apartment, that will only just increase traffic as well as parking needs, and again, would like to know how the council would be addressing this issue if it does go ahead. In addition, also to the lack of open space within the walkable catchment area, again, this would be something that I would like the council to consider and to also have a look at if this proposal was to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. I'll now call on Lachlan Walter. Arthur Coates. Submission 292.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillors. And with your permission, I would like to put on each table a couple of photographs that I took this week.
We'll get some, Melinda will come and help us.
However you'd like to do that,
Yep.
and it will illustrate my point.
Yep.
There they are.
We just want to
There are 2 images, 2 for each table.
Just start the clock again. Yep.
My objection is based around a yet unanswered question. What steps does the Council envisage implementing to ensure that the residents of Rosebery Avenue and Town Hall Avenue have continuous vehicle access via the western end of the right-of-way through the construction period and on the completion of any development? In the photos that I have given to you, I captured them last week, and they are the garages of the most recent building that has been, or development that has been put up in Rosebery Avenue. The buildings face north, and my photographs are taken looking north at the 2 garages. Now, I've used a lens that's wide angle, hence they're a bit exaggerated in the size. But I want to draw your attention to the right-hand corner of the right-hand garage. You will see that it's a very short and acute 90-degree angle. The only way into that garage, there are two ways. You can approach from the west and you would drive east and you would nose into that garage. Or you could approach from the east and you could drive down the laneway and you could back into the garage. But once you've approached it in a particular direction, you can never go back the other way. And that is the same with my residence, and it's the same with the majority of residents in that entire block. So I return to my... the only other possibility you've got is to back the entire distance of the lane. And there are very few people with those skills. But because of the number of residents that have been built with the same configuration that we have, there are often more than one vehicle in that lane. And so we have to be very considerate, and at times we have to back into our premises to let the other person pass. So that is my question. What steps does the council envisage implementing to ensure that the residents of Rosebery Avenue and Town Hall Avenue have continuous vehicle access via the western end of their right-of-way throughout the construction phase and after the completion of any development site?
Thank you for your submission. I now call on Sandy Litton. Andy Toe. 301.
Madam Mayor and Councillor, most of the things I want to speak is been mentioned by previous speaker, but I'm not quite clear about the 5-story high. That how many units or apartment contains in that? And if you go ahead to build, that would be 5-story or limit high 5-story. I'm not quite clear. And the main point I want to know is how many units or how many apartments? Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, the design of the building is not something that we've done yet, and depending on the outcome of the question that we're asking tonight, we'll go into a process of design and then go back out for further consultation. The next submitter is Manpreet Sidhu.
That's my wife and my son's colleague.
Okay.
Tonight, if you want me.
Is there any extra additional points you'd like that in her submission that you'd like to make?
Well, I think I can say a couple of things very quick if you like.
Okay. Yep.
The main point I believe that Manpreet brought up was, again, with a strategy for the area. We live very close, and she would like to see that, you know, the council has a vision and the council has a lot of different ideas. Let's incorporate all that together, develop a strategy, get the community involved in that and say, well, this is what we present to be, you know, built onto this area. And that's incorporating, like I mentioned earlier, around the old police station, the courthouse, and I think the car park in the back of the council offices here. So again, it's coming to that, let's get a strategy together, let's incorporate all these ideas and deliver on that and make it part of an entire community, essentially.
Thank you. Next is Sue Chan, 308.
Hi, thank you for hearing my submission. Just to give you a bit of context, I suppose, I live not far from here with two old people who are in their late 80s. They both have disability parking permits, and I live with 2 teenagers, and we eat in High Street, we walk to the market, we go to the library. So I don't live in the streets concerned, but we are certainly locals, and it's really interesting for me to hear about, and I can understand this, all our concern about housing for our cars before we prioritise that before we provide housing for people. And I guess, and I don't want to discredit people's concerns about congestion and parking. I know that they're very real. I drive a car. I know that it's, you know, it's not fun sitting in traffic, which I do every day. So, however, I think that there are priorities here, and I think the problems, I'm sorry, I should have said I'm supportive of this, and I'm urging councillors to support this project. I know that I'm in the minority here tonight. And that more than that, I would urge council to be more generous in your consideration to make sure this project is viable. I've seen similar projects done by other councils. Port Phillip Housing has done a similar development over a car park. The community, as far as I know, around that hasn't gone to shit. Excuse my language. And there's lots of really sophisticated models about affordable housing that I see in Gibb Street, in Richmond, that have been built, and it's very harmonious with the community. So I just think affordable housing's everyone's responsibility. It's so easy to kick it down the road and say it's the federal government, it's the state government, it's other government, it's whatever. I guess in terms of whether we really support this or not, the test is whether I would be happy to have it in my backyard, in my street, and I would say yes. 5 levels, yes. If that provides more housing to people so they can have a roof. I'm lucky enough to be able to buy my house. Not everyone's in the same situation. Preston was once affordable, it isn't anymore. So this is a great initiative to make Preston the welcoming family city it is, and I would commend you to do it.
Thank you for your submission. Now, there was a number of submitters that we indicated that they would like to present, but we haven't heard from them. So is there anyone that is here that was expecting to speak this evening? No? Everyone's had their say? Okay. I'd like to thank you all for coming and submitting this evening. Councillors, there is a recommendation in front of us.
I'm happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. That's moved by Councillor Greco and seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Greco.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, first of all, just like to thank the people that have come out tonight on a cold night to make their submissions and to present their concerns around the council idea, which at the moment all it is just an idea of developing some social or affordable housing in and around the council building. As we've said, it's we've put out this request to receive our submissions, and it's been really good to get a cross section of the concerns of the community in regards to it. I think for tonight, not only does it highlight concerns that people may have in relation to what's the idea that's been suggested, but also all the other associated issues with this particular area in the heart of Preston, in and around the city of Darwin. The issues that were highlighted, obviously, with parking congestion and if you like, the flexibility that people have in terms of moving in and around this particular area. I think there's a lot of learnings there for us to take on board, apart from the issue of whether council moves forward in relation to the development of this particular project that the council has put out there for comment. So again, I thank the community for coming forward tonight, putting forward their ideas. That I think it provides a lot of food for thought for council, and that we would seriously be taking into account the various submissions that have been made, and that we will process that, and that, as was mentioned by the Mayor, and we'll be coming back to the council. This issue will be coming back to the council with some further further opinion or further determination by the council.
Thank you, Councillor Greco. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd also like to second Councillor Greco's message of thanks to all submitters with the range of views that were expressed and the range of different concerns and suggestions as well. And also just to note that in these processes, this is not an unusual process for us to go through, because we are rarely in the situation where we talk about council land for this purpose. So it is an unusual process for us to hear these sorts of concerns. Usually we're considering planning permits and making decisions about the use of other people's land. And so for us as councillors, it's an important process, as Councillor Greco mentioned, to hear the range of views and concerns, but also to hear some of the information that people would like to have before they can feel that like they can put forward a view. And that really helps us in terms of understanding what needs to happen going forward. I would just note as well that as part of this process, we are at the very early stage in this conversation, and it is a formal process. But there are a range of factors for us to take on board. The Mayor mentioned earlier that there is, by virtue of the planning controls, already a 5-storey allowable height on the site. So that doesn't mean that you have a 5-storey building. It doesn't mean you have a 2-storey building. Those are aspects for the design process, which would be some steps down the path here. I'd also mention as well that by virtue of coming along here tonight and making your submissions or making a written submission, you've actually done the thing that we want to see happen in these processes, which is get engaged, become involved, and ask the critical questions that you'd like council to consider as we go forward. So whether you're in favour of it or against it, staying involved and staying engaged is actually the most important thing, and rarely do we get an opportunity to be involved in these processes so early on. The last thing I'll just mention is that, and this is just so that people are aware, there is a range of work that council has done around the broader precinct of the town hall that goes back a number of years. And if you're interested, there was a couple of questions there about what is the broader vision for this part of Preston and the structure plan. Our officers can always point you in the direction of that as well. So it's important that you're aware of what the Preston Priority Development Zone is, and also some of the controls there. That information is all freely available, and I encourage you to contact the officers for that.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Messina.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for everybody. I think it was important for us to know what your voices were and what you wanted in the particular area. Can I also say, and just echo the words of Councillor Greco and Councillor McCarthy, that we currently do have a process and some workshops about the Preston Precinct Plan. So I urge you to go to our website, have your say, and tell us what you want to look for in the future of Preston. So please spend some time to have a look at that and tell us what you want in this particular precinct so that we can deliver what you're wanting. Thank you for your time tonight.
Any further speakers? No? Okay, I'll put that motion to the vote. All those in favour? That motion is carried. And that brings us to the close of proceedings this evening. And I'd just like to echo the thoughts of my fellow councillors and thanking you all for coming along and getting involved. So thank you.